Gotta dress up sometimes.
Awesome. Very good. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad we're recording on a day that you're all dressed up. Yeah. Bill, what do you do? Like, yeah, I don't know anything about you. Yeah.
Don't know anything. I work for the National Capital Commission in Ottawa. So we're planners and planners of the capital. We also manage a large real estate portfolio of federal buildings that is used as a leasing portfolio, development portfolio, those kind of things. So I work as a vice president of the real estate team here.
Wow, awesome! Yeah, you have an engineering background, or like okay?
Yeah.
Good, awesome. Yeah. I read about. You may want to correct me on my dates here. August 27th, 1988.
What's that?
You were 10 years old and you found out that, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You remember that date?
I don't remember that date, but I certainly remember reading the article. I tell you, it was pretty interesting.
Tell me about it. Yeah, like a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, I used to get this magazine when I was a kid. It was Sports Illustrated for kids, I think it was, and I remember reading about the Manhattan Island Marathon swim that they had back then. And there was a kid, I can't remember his name, and I want to say he was 12 years old, and he was the youngest person to ever swim around New York. And I remember looking at that going, and I was working out the times and like, okay, that's this much per 100 meters. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And I remember running upstairs, my parents, and I was like, I'm going to swim New York. And they're like, no, you're not. That was the end of it. And then a year later, I was like, I can still be the youngest kid to swim the race. Come on. And they're like, yeah, absolutely not. It's funny. And when you're that young, things are so simple, right? And in retrospect, there's no way on this planet that I would have finished that race. So it's funny.
Craig Brammer is the name of the kid, and it's amazing. A 10-year-old kid to pick up a piece of paper and to calculate the pace. That's awesome. It took me almost. I think I did that only when I was 19 or 20. Yeah. Way to go. Yeah, like tell me about your like childhood swimming adventures. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started swimming when I was, I'm going to say competitive swimming anyways, when I was 8. And it was more, my parents were just trying to find something to keep me occupied, I think, more than anything else. I was, very, very hyperactive kid. I was, good in school, and that didn't keep me busy. And so I liked swimming. So they put me in swimming because it was something that, sorry, excuse me a sec. Something that I wasn't going to be good at initially, right? And I had to be, humbled and, forced to work hard and those kind of things. So, it started when I was 8, and I really enjoyed it. I stuck with it for many, many years. I swam club in all the different places we lived. So, originally was in Sudbury, swam for a couple of swim teams there. We were called the Sudbury Sports North swim team was the first team I ever swam with. Then Laurentian University Swim Club, swam with them. Then we moved up north. We moved to a place called Sioux Lookout. It's it's halfway between Thunder Bay and Winnipeg, and then you kind of go a little bit north for the midpoint there. And when we moved up there to continue my swimming, we had to do it in Dryden. So my parents drove me an hour to practice.
Wow.
4 days a week, we drove an hour there and an hour back when I was up there. And then I graduated from university up when I was in Sioux Lookout, and then finished swimming at University of Waterloo varsity there. And then just swam on and off for years afterwards, whether it was doing triathlons or marathon swimming or just master swimming. I did a bunch throughout the years.
Okay. So, like, what's the drive? Like, you've been swimming since age 12 swimming is a difficult sport. It's not an easy sport.
No.
You mentioned a couple of important words that, okay, you had to be humbled, or your parents wanted you to be humbled, but age 10 and you're, I believe you're just shy of 40, or how old are you?
46.
46. Yeah, you're still a baby. Yeah. So yeah. What's the drive? What's the purpose? And
it's funny. I've asked myself that question. I don't know. I think it's this is horrible. I think it's familiarity. I mean, I know how to do it. I'm okay at it. It's a good way to stay active that I can do well. I mean, I think it's funny because I've quit swimming a couple of times over the years, and I was just drawn back in. Like I remember when I went to university, funny enough, I was not planning on swimming ever again. I was actually planning on playing water polo at university, and there was no water polo team at Waterloo. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'm back on the swim team again. It was one of those things. And then, when I had my first kid, it was so overwhelming and so much work, and I stopped swimming for a couple of years then, and then came back to it and said, you know what, I got to get back in shape. I got to stay healthy. I got to live till I'm 100. That's kind of my motto. And I'm going to do that by, getting back in the water and training and being fit and being active. And I think that's probably it, Madhu. I think it comes down to that, it's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that I'm comfortable with. It's something I'm familiar with, and it's something that'll benefit me long term. I think that's probably how it sums it up.
No, I think I kind of agree with you when you say, okay, you're comfortable and you're familiar with it, because with every tricky things that we go through life, sometimes like places where you're familiar with is where you can hide and reframe, rationalize a lot of tricky things and get at least try to find answers.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've faked being a cyclist. I've faked being a triathlete. But at the end of the day, I always came back to swimming.
Awesome. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. And with what was the transition to get into open water? Was it just like racing? Was it speed? I know you mentioned health to continue swimming. So people do that. You can just do that in the pool, but you've come out into the adventurous, unfamiliar open water. Like, what's that? What's the drive there?
I'm gonna go with ego, and I'll tell you why. So I would say that I've always been okay with open water swims. Like, never had a problem with them. Whenever there was like a local race, I'd enter it just for fun. But it was never like I wasn't an open water swimmer when I was a kid. I was a pool swimmer. But then when I got back into the sport, into swimming in general, and I needed something to kind of keep me motivated, open water was really nice in that I didn't have to see myself getting slower year after year after year. I could always blame the conditions, or the course was too long, or in open water is fun in that you're not racing against a clock for a best time. You're racing against the guy beside you. Okay. And even better, sometimes it gets a little physical. I have been known to get a couple of yellow cards in some races over the years. Mm-hmm. So you can mix it up a little bit, you get your elbows into it. But I think fundamentally it's being able to do it and not have to worry about that 1/10 of a second you're never getting back as you get older. It's something you can always do and have a clean slate every time you do it.
Okay. So open water racing, and then there's adventure swimming, getting across bodies of water. How do you treat those two things? I know you mentioned, elbows, racing, 1/10 of a second. Yeah. All those things are washed away when it comes to like adventure swimming. How do you deal with that?
It's the same thing. I think it's the same thing, but there's different drivers, right? I mean, when you're in a race, it's the guy beside you got to beat. When it's a solo swim, you're going to beat the lake. And I mean, I think a lot of marathon swimmers and open water swimmers have the same opinion. Whether they're a racer or a solo swimmer. When you look at a body of water, right? You're camping trip with the kids, or you're visiting some country, and you're standing on some beach. You look across and you're like, I can swim that, right? It's that inherent desire to want to get to the other side of that pond. Mm-hmm. But just like I want to beat the guy beside me, I want to get across that pond. They're all the same. There's an objective, there's a goal behind, whether it's a solo swim or a race or whatever it is. Push your limits.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, forgive me, so if you get beaten in the race, or if the lake beats you, how do you deal with that?
I've never been beaten by the lake, so I don't know how to deal with that one. Okay. But the guy, I mean, if it's the guy beside you, it's sometimes they're faster than you, and there's no way you're going to beat them. But if it comes down to a technical element, yeah, you're gonna learn from it. But I think the same thing is if the lake beats you, you're gonna digest how it went, what went wrong, and you're gonna come back and you're gonna do it better.
Okay. Now, like the larger question that I was trying to get to is people who ever get to watch this, like how to deal with failure. How do you deal with failure? Okay, not just in open water, like in life. And you might say, hey, I've never failed. But at times,
I failed plenty. I failed plenty.
Yeah, like, I mean, how do you deal with that? Like, what's your, I know you mentioned, there's always lessons to learn. We always want to fail fast, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing about failure is that you need to fail, and whether it's personally or even, and I deal with this a lot more professionally with my team, is that I challenge myself and I challenge my team to be creative, to do things differently, to push the limits, and to fail. Because if you're not failing, you're not pushing those limits, and you're not growing, and you're not learning. So the same thing here, right? I mean, to push our human limits, whether it's swimming across a lake or a certain speed, or just trying, if we don't push those limits, we're not going to get better. So I think that's the fundamental behind it, is we need to fail in order to improve.
Mm-hmm. Like, how do you use this model professionally at work? Because like managing a team, people with different skill sets, mindset, right?
Yeah.
How do you encourage people to push their barrier? It's okay to fail. Like, I mean, yeah, how do you do that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I'll use a very concrete example, and can I use bad words on here? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, this is yeah, you can. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I think it was last year.
In fact, go for it. Yeah.
So last year I was doing a year end with my team. We were having a Christmas party, and we had a lot of new staff. And I told I'm going to summarize. It was a little more long-winded. And I basically said, I told my team, I said, I want you to go out there this year, and I want you to fuck up. I said, because if you're not fucking up, it means you're not pushing the limits. I want you to do things differently. I want you to be creative. I want you to push the limits. And I said, the most important thing is, if you do this, I'm going to have your back. And I don't want anyone to worry about, about criticizing, about fault playing. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to fuck up, and then we're going to fix it. And the most important thing is fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing. So I encourage my team to not dwell on mistakes, but to come up with solutions. So I think that's the same thing that I carry too, is that I don't worry about making the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy fixing the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So when you're getting across a body of water, there are a lot of things that you can't control.
Yep.
How do you deal with that? How do you like plan?
Oh, it's
getting across, like, I'm sure professionally, sometimes when you venture into a new market or a new initiative, you don't know a lot of things that you can control, things you can't control. Similarly, in the open water space, like, how do you build a team that can solve the problem? Or
that's a good one. I mean, planning is fundamental to getting things done, right? I mean, ensuring you have planned properly. I mean, in Lake Ontario is a great example in terms of, so many variables are at play, and it doesn't take just hard work. It takes luck. It doesn't just take planning. It takes luck. There's so many pieces going on there. And I think, the way I approached Lake Ontario was really, it was a lot of things from a lot of different swims I've put in terms of what went wrong in previous swims, what went well in previous swims. And not only that, but what else could we even find out? And, everything from my training to my nutrition to the team I put together, but probably even the biggest factor that me and my team put into this one was understanding the lake. And I don't think enough's been put into that particular piece, especially when we talk about this body of water. We dug into research from the 70s, having to do with different current patterns. We dug into the raw data from NOAA in terms of trying to figure out how the predictability of the flow patterns, times for departure, paths of departure. I think we did about 50,000 models in terms of, is there a faster path across than a straight line? That led to no, but it also led to understanding of this, let's call it 17-hour current cycle that the Lake Ontario has, and that if you're faster than 17 hours, you can use the current to your advantage in terms of picking the vectors that line up within that sphere, right? And between all these different factors, I did the math, the seconds per 100, and I said, yeah, we can get the record here. But then there's things you can't control, like we could not control the bridges in Niagara-on-the-Lake, or in Welland, sorry. We couldn't control the bridges in Welland, and we started our swim 30 minutes late. So we had 30 minutes more current pushing against us when we got to Toronto, and we missed the record by 3 minutes, which we would have had the bridges not been closed or not been open at the time. So there's things you can control, there's things you can't control, right? And I look back on that and I say, geez, I had no idea that these bridges opened at 2:00 in the morning. Had we done more research on these things, maybe we could have controlled that factor too. But I mean, you can plan. There's always things that you can't plan for, but you just got to do your best. And the more factors you can take into account, the better your result is likely to be.
So 2 questions here. Okay, one is keeping your focus for 14 hours and 53 minutes.
14
hours and 45 minutes. Yeah. This is like, I mean, just yourself. How do you do that? And you also mentioned, okay, like did you, when you put together the team to do the research, there is some technical strength required, and then people on the boat, that's a different skill set. How did you pick that? How did you put that together? Yeah.
So let me start with Antoine, the mad scientist. So Antoine is a colleague of mine that I work with here in Ottawa, and he's a transportation planner in his professional career, but he's got a side hustle as a shipwreck finder. And he spent a lot of time doing drift analysis on major bodies of water. So if a boat goes down here, you research how the currents, figure out where on the bottom of the lake it ends up. And I was telling him about how I was planning on digging into the data and pulling this apart, and he's like, no, man, I'm going to do this for you. And he just killed it. The code and the scripts and the background and the research and I mean, he's not a swimmer at all, so he needed to understand what I was going to be going through and what I needed and how it was going to work. But on the technical side, he just absolutely crushed it. And every day he'd be drafting curves in terms of departure times and expected finish times and those kind of things. I mean, he was right off the bat number one, because that was one piece of this puzzle that was no one's done before. So I needed someone who was very, very good and knowledgeable in water currents, when analyzing water currents. I don't think that's a big thing. I mean, the rest of the team were people that are close to me, that are swimmers themselves, our family, or are people that really wanted to be part of this. I had three folks on my team who I swam in college with. One of them is my best friend. I had my father with me. My father has been my lieutenant since I started open water swimming. So he was on the boat back in New York. He's been with me in End Wet and traveled with me to different places. I think he no longer wants to be my prime, and I'll tell you in a second. I mean, he gets so nervous every time I get in the water. Despite me trusting him emphatically with my safety, I think the stress might be a little much for him these days, as I get older and as he gets older. And I had my son, my 14-year-old son, Eli. I think he's actually going to take over for my father as my lieutenant. Okay. He was in the Zodiac beside me for 12 of the 14 hours, and he was yelling and he was encouraging, and whether my best friend Kurt and my another friend Steve, who was university with me, again, the team was just incredible. I had some other colleagues that were with me who were there to experience it, who'd never seen it before, but I knew were there to support me, advocate for me, because no one knew what I wanted to do better than them, right? It's one thing, you've got these pilots who don't know you, you've got a swim master that doesn't know you. You need people to advocate for you when you're in the water stroking time after time, because your voice can't be heard because your feed is 15 seconds and you've got to go because you're after a record, right? So to me, it was really important for people who knew me, who knew what I wanted and could advocate for me.
The data that you have, the research that you've done, are you okay to, put it in some kind of a paper, publish, and are you okay to share it with the rest of the world? I'm going to give you certain platforms if you're okay, only if you're okay with it.
I mean, I think I'll have to talk to Antoine about that, because I think probably most of the intellectual property is owned by him. I think we may write something. He's an RCGS fellow, We may do something with them, but I can talk to him if that's because I mean
there's go for it. Yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say there's this can definitely help a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
More than that, I think it can help the way you analyze this entire lake as a problem, right? Yeah, like I mean, yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. We looked at the lake as a problem. We looked at how do we get from A to B as fast as my engine works? That's how we looked at it.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe that's the title of the paper.
Maybe.
Yeah, actually, I saw a picture of you holding an RCGS flag, and I was going to ask you about that. So yeah, tell me about that. There's a picture floating around you. I think was it in the channel, or I'm not sure where it is. Yeah,
that's when I went to the channel. So I mean, I'm close with the Royal Canadian Geographic Society professionally. So I helped them. I set them up in their new home. They're tenants of mine, and I was very close to different people there. So they said, hey, when you go to the channel, bring this flag with you. So I brought the flag with me. But when I went to the channel, I never got to swim. Well, you know what? There we go. The channel beat me because I never got to swim it. I went to the English Channel and I stood on the beach for 10 days and watched the wind blow. So there, the channel. And I don't know how I solved for that particular problem, but the channel has beaten me.
How it hasn't beaten you. It did not give you a chance to swim. You can always go back, right?
That's right. I can always go back.
You can always go back. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I told my wife. I said, I feel so good right now. Like, Madhu, I don't even know how this quite happened, but like my shape right now, like I felt great finishing Lake Ontario. I was back training 3 days later. I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna go get a last minute slot over in the channel, and I'm gonna get this goddamn thing done this year. And then she looked at me and she says, "No way." But she may have used some expletives in there too. So
you got to listen to the wife, okay?
Happy wife, happy life. Absolutely.
How many kids do you have?
I got 3 kids.
You have 3 kids, and you still made it happen, and you had one of them on your boat. One of them as your lieutenant. That's the way to be a dad.
That's right. And well, he has designs to be a marathon swimmer himself. So I needed, and it's terrible because I wanted him along to see this isn't easy. Because when I said I was going to swim Lake Ontario, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to swim Lake Ontario too. And I said, no, you're not. I said, the most important thing is you are prepared for this properly. I said 4 years. If you're lucky, 4 years, you're going to be ready to do this. But the problem was, I think I showed him it was too easy. Like everything went so well, and I was so my stroke was solid. And at the end of it, I thought to myself, I think I showed him that this stuff is too easy. You're not going to know how hard this thing is. It sounds terrible, but it like I said, it was like a perfect conditions. I've never done a swim like this, Madhu, where I felt great. You know, anything into the 10-hour range, I literally thought I was going to die. Thought my shoulder was going to fall off. I slept for like days afterwards. I think back to your original question, I think it came down to proper planning and preparation. I think everything was just so on point this time around that it just went really, really well. But I don't know where I was going with that.
I know we spoke about planning, but how do you prepare for it? Yeah, so that because another cool thing that you mentioned was you flew across the lake, and then you said you were recovered within 2 days.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for this? Like, there's a physical component and a mental component. I think you've already touched portions of the mental side.
Yeah.
Tell me about the physical.
Yeah, the physical. I mean, I think it came down to, I knew the meters that need to be put in. Like that, I've been doing this long enough that I knew what it needed to be done. But it was, to me, this time around was about normalizing big distance.
Okay.
It was normalizing big distance on a daily basis. So I think during heavy training, I was 70K a week. But it was there were long sessions, right? There were probably like 5 10K sessions and 1 16K session, but it was every day, right? And there was no recovery. It was just you bang it and you bang it and you bang it until that it's like second nature that this is the kind of distance you're doing. This is what you're going to do. And I think, training with the right nutrition, that's another thing. I think I got my nutrition like really right for the first time too. To me, this time was different in that this is the most distance I think I've trained in training. And I think it was normalizing the big numbers on a daily basis made this that much easier.
Nutrition during training, what was special? Yeah,
My what? Sorry?
Nutrition during training, what was it? Yeah.
Well, I've introduced a lot more protein this year. That's one thing that I think I was negligent on in the past. I was very much carb driven really heavily. I increased a lot of protein into my diet this time around. The types of carbohydrates changed too. I used to be very much a 100% maltodextrin guy. I had a lot of my my feeding specifically during training was more. I've added a mix of free fructose and malto to it.
Okay.
I find that the multiple pathways, I think that I'm getting more out of it. Yeah.
This is all during training, your macro cycles and
Yeah.
everything, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How was your recovery like? Yeah.
My recovery during training. Very good. Like, I don't think I went through very much. I didn't go through a lot of. I mean, I had a couple of macro cycles. I raced in Miami in April, so I cycled down for that one, and then a little smaller cycle when I did a local race here about a month before Lake Ontario. But I mean, the downtime was I think I dropped tapered for 2 days or something like that. But still trying to get the trying to get a I guess not overexertion, but I wanted to get an extremely hard effort in is what I was trying to do during a cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your nutrition during the swim? Like, I know you mentioned 15 seconds per feed break. And what was your interval, and what did you eat? Like, yeah.
So I feed on 30 minutes. Okay. And I adjust my water based on how much I'm peeing, but mostly that's based on the water temperature. But I take in, so in 30 minutes, I take in 160 calories. 2/3 of that is maltodextrin, 1/3 is free fructose. Okay. Then I have an electrolyte mix. So there's some sodium in citrate form, potassium in citrate form, magnesium in citrate form, and then I throw some flavor into that. And it took me a while to really get, I think, the electrolytes right. But the thing I had to adjust the amount of the volume of fluid though. I started with 500 mils on the half hour. And I was peeing every 5 minutes, and I reduced it to about 350. I was still peeing a lot, but 350 seemed to sit really well.
Okay. And what was the caloric content of that feed?
Yeah, it was 160 every half hour, so 320 an hour.
So 320 calories per hour.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And how did you come up with that number? Yeah.
Based on my ability to absorb. I mean, I've
very good. Yeah.
Over the years, I've figured what doesn't sit well in my stomach. I find that when I got up to 350, I had a hard time absorbing it, and I got some stomach illness. So 320 puts me in a safe spot a little bit. I probably could have gone a little bit higher, because typically I've only experimented with malto. Adding the free fructose in the secondary pathway, I probably could have gone a little higher. But I didn't have time to really play around too much with it. I found the 320 worked well, so I just stuck with it.
Very awesome, yeah. And so you mentioned, we were talking about 15 seconds per feed, and what happened? Like 14 hours. What was going through your head? Yeah, was it just strokes, like just pace, or what was it? Yeah, like how did you keep your focus? Yeah.
I'd say the singular thing, and this is always with me when I'm swimming long distances, is get to the next feed. Get to the next feed. Okay. That's all it is. And I mean, I think there's a lot of micro adjustments you're doing at the same time, right? Because there's a lot of things that are going weird. Like it was really watching my stroke that I wasn't modifying it, that it was going to start to hurt. So, you put your hand in and you get to a point like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. Okay, I got to adjust it here. And then, so yeah, it was constant minor adjustments to ensure the stroke felt good. And then you always hit these weird patches, right? Like I remember when we came out of the Niagara sandbar, the sea was really confused. And I couldn't find a right pattern to my stroke. Okay. Right? It was just, I couldn't get the right rhythm. I was just off, and it was just, but then you just get in your head, okay, just swim, try and find it, slow it down, speed it up. Let's find the right pattern. It took me like, and I called it when I was in the water, restarting the diesel engine is how I told myself I was doing. I was trying to restart the diesel engine. And it happened again to me when the waves started up. So we got, once we got past the Niagara sandbar, so we had about 2 hours of rough. Then it got flat, like dream flat, right? And I think we got probably 5.5 hours of dream flat. And then when the current started shifting in the other direction, the wind picked up. We got wind, we got waves, we got current, all coming on the broadside. And the same thing happened, right? I needed to get my stroke adjusted, and I was feeling awkward. So we're at 7 hours. And I'm like, okay, we got to restart the diesel engine again. It took about 20 minutes to just find the right stroke that felt good, that was timed with the waves. And then we had the hard work. Like we were 33K in we weren't even at 8 hours, like maybe 7:55. We were 33K in. So here we are, like just absolutely blazing. But then the other shoe dropped, right? And then, like I said, the current switched, the wave started, the wind started, and so the last 17K took us another 7 hours, right? So it was the tale of two swims almost, because we're literally swimming on an angle like this in order to go straight, right? You know it.
If you take all those data and put it on a whiteboard, how will you improve it? Everything that you've learned from like your models and your swim experience, your nutrition, how can we get that 3 minutes right now?
Well, I would have started on time right off the bat. That cost it. We would have started on time. I think we had it, but the one thing the model didn't predict very well was the effect of wind and waves, right? It was very much, because our model was saying I was going to finish it in 12 hours, right? And I knew that was bullshit. There was no way I was getting this thing done in 12 hours. So we adjusted the start time based on, okay, there's going to be some effects, but those we weren't able to model those. Not that we weren't able to, that we didn't, right? That's probably the next step is, okay, we need to model, but it's really, really hard to model wave action when you don't know what it's going to be. I mean, we were supposed to get a south wind, was in the forecast, right? And I was, and as I was getting harder in those last 7 hours, I was like, okay, I know the wind's going to turn to the south in the last 3 hours, of which shot right in. And so I just kept thinking about, okay, when's the wind going to turn? When's the wind going to turn? When's the wind turn? It never did, right? So you can't model that. You can't model the way the waves change. The waves are supposed to be coming from, I think the waves came from the right direction. They were coming from the west. They were supposed to come from the west, but the wind was supposed to come from the south, and it stayed coming from the west. So we couldn't have modeled that. It's hard to model the wind because it isn't necessarily static. And if you go to one of those, you look at, I was just, this, I was looking at every single wind model, the days leading up to it and hours leading up to it. And of the 7 models, maybe 4 of them agree and 3 of them don't, and they change. And if you look at Lake Ontario, right, you might have a south wind here, you got a west wind here, you got an east wind there. It's so all over the place, right? So modeling the wind is hard. So our model didn't contain the wind. Could we have put something in there? Maybe. Would have been accurate. But it definitely was the piece that was not part. Well, waves and wind, because the waves have effect too, right? Waves and wind weren't factored in. But I don't think putting those in would have really given us 3 minutes. I think starting on time would have given us 3 minutes. But the one thing I do think about, and I think we'll maybe do some analytics on it later, is that my pilots piloted a straight course, right? I wonder what would have happened if we would have let ourselves drift off the start, because we did have a really strong east current. It was a southeast current. So, but we held it straight. I was still holding over 4K an hour because of the tail, but I was also fighting this to some degree. But had we allowed ourselves to come a little off course and then let that current push us at the end, we may have had a better result, because we were fighting the east-west current the whole way in order to keep the straight line. So that could have helped too, potentially. And it's all these things that you think about after the fact, but what we did use was amazing help, right? But could it be better? Maybe.
If you had perfect answers and you didn't hit 1442, I would have, right? That's awesome. No, I'm loving everything that you're saying, Bill. One more thing, life and swimming and everything. What's the most difficult thing that you've done in life?
Ooh, the most difficult thing I've done in life.
Okay, that was like,
become a parent. Become a parent. That's always the toughest thing.
It's not easy,
Not easy, man. But it's also a wonderful thing too, right? Because when you got your 14-year-old screaming his face off, encouraging you to finish this swim, and knowing that this is what he wants to do too, like that gives you so much pride, so much joy, right? So it's parenting's the hardest thing I've done, but I think it's the most rewarding too.
Okay, you mentioned 3 kids.
3 kids. Yeah, so I got a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, both boys, and then my daughter's 11.
Wow. Way to go. And yet you managed to swim across Lake Ontario.
Well, what's important, Madhu, and I heard this from, it's funny, I got this nugget from Simon Whitfield, is the idea that you need to train when you're not needed, right? so that you're home every night for dinner. You're there to drive your kids through activities. So I mean, I tell people, ask me, when do you swim? I swim when everyone's sleeping, right? So I mean, out the door 4:45, in the pool 5:30, right? And I'm hammering out 2.5 hours, 10K, done at 8, off to work, right? So it's like you sacrifice your sleep. You sacrifice your sleep. But yeah, the most important part is you got to be there. You got to make sure that your training doesn't interfere with your family, with your life, with your job, those kind of things. Yeah. Sleep less.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I took the same approach when I was training for Marathon des Sables. I would start my runs at 11:30 in the night.
Yep.
Finish them at like 3:30 in the morning. Sleep in, go to work, come back. Yeah, that's awesome that you mentioned that. Okay, I kind of relate to what you say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to go. And how does your wife come into this equation? I know she said no English channel, but there's a lot more to it than just.
She puts up with my craziness. Let's leave it at that. She puts up with it. No, I think she understands that it's kind of my thing. I don't think she understands it, but she accepts it. She doesn't understand it, but she accepts it. There you go.
Where to go? Like, how do you define yourself, Bill? I know you're an engineer. You have a demanding job, 3 kids, and swimming, and what's your brand? Like, how do you identify yourself? Yeah.
What's my brand? I guess if someone asks, what are you? I mean, I consider myself a creative type, I think is what I do. Despite being an engineer, despite being in real estate, despite being a swimmer, I think I like the creativity in things. I like to look at things differently. I think that's how I define myself. Is I'm going to look at something a lot different than anyone else will. I think that's my brand. You're looking for unique. If you're looking for a unique point of view, I'm going to give it to you.
Way to go. Do you have any tidbit for any new budding swimmers, like open water swimmers, who want to go after adventurous crossing? What do you have? What do you want to tell them?
Yeah.
Somebody who doesn't know, hey, I want to swim. I want to try this 10K swim.
Yeah. My advice would be, take your time. Love the sport first. So many times I have seen people say, I want to do this swim because I want to check it off a box. The whole, it's the whole, I'm going to be an Ironman. I have been asked to train people to do marathon swims. I have said no, because they were too young, they were too inexperienced. To me, it's about this sport is one that gives a lot back, and it's one that you need to build an appreciation for, and that takes time. So my advice is learn to love the sport, and I'm doing it with my son. So my 14-year-old, who's a swimmer, he doesn't swim club. He swims with me. I train him 3 times a week. He's young, but he doesn't need to swim. He doesn't need to be banging 9-10 workouts a week like I did when I was a kid. I disagree with this idea of what we put kids through and all over the world in terms of swimming, and they need to understand strokes, and understand technique, but all of the development of their systems can happen as they get older, as they're stronger, and those kind of things, right? So with him, that's exactly what I'm doing, right? I'm building an appreciation, a love of the sport, learning it slowly, doing meets as we want to, learning how to race and learning how to love. So my advice to anyone who wants to swim Lake Ontario is learn to love swimming first, and then start to build yourself up.
Okay, you mentioned something in here, what has the sport given to you, and what do you want to give back to this sport?
I would say, it's funny, a word popped into my head. I don't know if it's tripped. I'm going to say it. I don't know if it's given me peace. It's given me peace. I think that swimming brings me to a place that I can understand what's going on, whether it's at work, whether it's at home. It gives me a time to think, gives me time to center myself, and it gives me, strength, right? So the sport's given me peace. What do I want to give back? I mean, I'll give back as much as people are willing to take. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that I understand about it, but the technical side of things, whether it's the endurance side of things, and it's just a matter of if people want my help, I'm open to giving it to anyone, and it's I'm willing to give as much as people are willing to take.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is like, this conversation was awesome. Yeah. I don't think we've ever met. Yeah. Like,
we may have once at a Lost Swim years ago. I was thinking back to myself.
oh, really? Okay. I was actually, I have a very good visual memory of people that I've met.
Yeah.
I was like going through my,
I want to say it was the year.
I just couldn't, yeah.
There was
That's
a
okay.
year.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think I've like, this was fantastic. Yeah. If you can, and if you would love to publish that paper and yeah, share it with the world, if only it's up to you guys. I know these things are not easy, right? It takes a lot of effort. And if you don't mind, send me the picture of your team and the person who did the modeling. I would like to put that as the thumbnail for this conversation.
Okay.
And once I publish it, I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna check with. I'm also part of Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. I'm one of the committee members. This conversation has so much intellect in it. I may want to put it on Imshov handle. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for your time, Bill. And next time you're in GTA, let me know. We'll have a cup of coffee and a beer. Okay.
Sounds great. All right. Thanks, Madhu.
Cheers. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.